actually start going live. I hope my network is functioning properly. I tried to do this a little bit earlier on, but I saw it's 5 minutes, which means my stream wasn't successful at that point. So I just decided to just do it again because it's important for me to actually see if my predictions, without overthinking them, are more accurate than my overthought predictions. This is because when I started my channel last year, I used to be able to predict 100% purely from my knowledge of the sport, as opposed to doing research and all those type of things. And I used to get like even 100%. I remember the first fight card that I predicted was um, Texiera versus Hill, where Jamal Hill became the light heavyweight champion the first time. I think I got 100% on that card, but I was predicting only the main card, and I wasn't doing a lot of research. It was largely based on my knowledge of the sport. So I simply decided, you know what? From now on, for every pay-per-view, this is me testing out how good my prediction skills are without doing too much research, because sometimes too much research can make you second guess yourself even when you knew that okay, this person is probably going to win this fight, but because you've seen some information that tells you they're not, you might second guess yourself. So from now on, I'm going to start doing these predictions, because I used to be a lot more successful when I did my predictions with my knowledge. The only reason that I stopped was because there was one time whereby it went horrible, and I was like, never again, right? So because now mixed in with the research and the amount of time that I've been watching the UFC, I felt like maybe I should revisit that idea. So let me start with the predictions. The first fight of the early prelims will be Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. I think both fighters are good, but I don't know if Cody Garbrandt can actually fight or stand with Davison Figueiredo. Davison Figueiredo has a lot of power, and I know Garbrandt has a lot of power, but I think Davison is a little bit faster and a little bit more technical, in my opinion. The people that Cody Garbrandt has been sure, dude. The reason that Cody Garbrandt I feel like was winning, or rather has been winning, is because he hasn't been fighting high level fighters. Davison Figueiredo was in a title fight 2 fights ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, about 2 fights ago, Davison Figueiredo was in a title fight, and more than yeah, basically that's basically it, and which is also crazy because he's the opening prelim. To think that this guy 2 fights ago was in the main event or co-main event fighting for a title, and now he's opening the prelims, and yet Bo Nickel is the opener on the main card. But what can I say? At the end of the day, we're getting fights, and that's all we should care about. But it really sucks, man. But nonetheless, I think Davison Figueiredo is going to win this particular fight. I think he's better. He has a lot more power. He's more technical. My only concern with him is that he's getting older, and a lot of older fighters do not really do well at the lower weight classes, especially at flyweight, whereby speed is a very important element. But nonetheless, I'm sticking with my big way of Davison Figueiredo. I think he's going to win this fight. On to the next one. Bobby Green versus what do you call him? What do you call him? Jim Miller. Yes, Jim Miller. Jim Miller has looked sensational. Um, as well as Bobby Green, because I didn't think there would come a time whereby Bobby Green would be ranked at lightweight. Because I knew that he was good, but I didn't think he would actually get some type of a chance to actually end up being ranked, especially this late in his career. But he proved me wrong, and he actually beat. Actually, I picked Dawson, if I'm not mistaken. Not Dawson. What do you call him? Bobby Green when he was fighting Dawson, um, and I was correct. But I don't know. this one is a little bit difficult to call because, like I was saying with Davis and Figueiredo, lower weight classes, um, the fighters tend to struggle to take punches. You know, it's easy to knock down an older person than it is to knock down someone who's younger, especially under 35. Um, that's number one, the biggest concern I have. And obviously, I know Bobby Green is also older, is above 35, but I mean, Jim Miller is approaching 40 at this point. Another issue that I might have is because I feel like um, Jim Miller has looked good, significantly good. I picked him in his out of his last two fights. I picked him on one, and I didn't pick him on one, and he won both those particular fights. So it's really challenging to actually say that he won't win because he's still fast. Extremely fast, and he still has a lot of power, which is crazy. But striking, in terms of striking, I think Bobby Green is a good enough striker to be able to survive against Jim Miller. And I think he also has a lot of power. So I think I'll go with Bobby Green on this one. I think he's going to have the advantage to some extent in this particular fight. On to the next one, Jessica Andrade versus Miranda Rodriguez. Um, Another hard one, right? How is this fight above Cody Garbrandt versus Davison Figueiredo? It's the things that happen. Anyway, on one hand, I don't think Jessica Andrade is that good. Even though I've picked her in some fights whereby she was upsetting. Like I think who was she fighting? Who's this pretty girl? I forgot her name. What's her name? What's her name? There was an upset that happened, I think, last year, and I picked Andrade, where people were saying, "Now Andrade is washed up" and all those type of things, and I picked Andrade in that particular fight. Right, the jiu-jitsu black Barragan world champion. I forgot her name, but she upset her in that particular fight. But I still said, even though I was picking Jessica Andrade, I did say that I don't think Jessica Andrade is a very good fighter. She's a decent fighter. I don't think she's one of the best, right? So, thank you, thank you. So thoughts on BMF fight? No, I'm coming to it. I'm still in the early prelims. I'm going to get to the main card. Um, so I don't know. It's kind of challenging to actually determine who's going to win this particular fight because, on one hand, I don't know how. I don't think Amanda, what do you call it, Jessica Andrade is that good, but also Marina Rodriguez, I don't think she's also that good. It's women's MMA, so it's gonna be difficult. But I'll just go with who has been tested and proven, which is Jessica Andrade at this point. So I'll say Jessica Andrade takes this one. On to the next one, Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano. This card is really nice, man. From the early prelims, um, I think Jalen Turner is going to win this one, and this is largely based on the fact that he was able to perform how he performed against Mateus Gamrot, who is one of the few lightweights that I genuinely believe has a shot at actually giving Islam a challenge to some extent. You know, I feel like out of in the lightweight division, the people that have a chance at actually beating Islam are Charles Oliveira, Aman Sarukian, and Gamrot. And the fact that Jalen Turner performed how he performed against Gamrot says a lot about how good he is. And I don't think Renato's grappling will be an issue for him. If he could survive Gamrod, I think he can survive Renato. And even though Renato is good at striking, I don't think he's on Jalen's level of striking. So I'll stick with my pick of Jalen Turner on this one. On to the next one. Sadiq Yusuf versus Diego Lopes. I think I'll go Diego Lopez, largely because I don't like fighters who guess out. I think Sadiq Yusuf was performing significantly well against Edson Barboza, and he guessed out. And you can't do that when you're fighting someone like Diego Lopez. So I don't know if Sadiq Yusuf is going to be able to win this particular fight. So I think I'm going to go with. Um, I think I'm going to. What's this? Okay. I think I'm going to go with Diego Lopez. On to the next one. Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Women's MMA, women's MMA. Women's MMA is crazy, man. Like a woman can come into a fight and look like a future champion, and then in the next fight look like they're not supposed to even be in the UFC. Holly Holm is old, and she's facing a grappler, and her last loss was to Bruno Silva out of, I don't know what her name is, something Silva, and it was to a submission, right? At her age, and Silva was not as good as Kayla Harrison, right? But on the other hand, Kayla Harrison has never made bantamweight. They're fighting at bantamweight, right? Kayla Harrison has never made the bantamweight. So that's going to be a significantly important factor in determining or in who is going to win. Because on one hand, Holly Holm is old, but she didn't look horrible in her last fight. Just that she got submitted, but she didn't look horrible. But I don't know what the weight cut is going to do to Kayla Harrison. But I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison because Holly Holm struggled in her last fight and got submitted. So I think if Silva can actually submit Holly Holm, then even if she doesn't get submitted by Kayla Harrison, I think Kayla Harrison will most likely find a way to actually win every single round with her grappling, with her wrestling. On to the next one, Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. I'm going with Aljamain Sterling, and here's why. I think Aljamain Sterling has always been a good fighter, just that because of the weight cut, um, it has been hindering his performance, especially when it comes to cardio. As if you look back at the time that he got kneed in the face, I feel like he was winning that fight in the first few rounds, and then the later rounds he lost. Obviously, people will say no. Peter Yan likes to take the first round off or the first few rounds off. Aljamain Sterling was winning that fight and he was beating Peter Yan. The problem came when he started to gas out, and that's where I thought I think the biggest problem was for Aljamain Sterling. I think Aljamain Sterling has most one of the most underrated striking abilities in the UFC. And also, if he was able to do what he did to Henry Cejudo, then I think he's going to be able to do that to Calvin Kattar, especially if cardio is not going to be an issue for him, especially if he can survive on the feet to some extent. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, Sean O'Malley knocked him out. Also, keep in mind that he was cutting a lot of weight. It's sort of like Alex Pereira. I don't know if Israel Adesanya would have been able to knock out Alex Pereira at lightweight. I think one of the reasons why he was able to do that it was because Alex Pereira was cutting so much weight that it made it a little bit easier for him to get knocked out. Which was the same thing that I think happened to Aljamain Sterling. And please do not misunderstand me. I picked Sean O'Malley to beat Aljamain Sterling. Right, that was my pick. I felt like Sean O'Malley was the better fighter, but the knockout, in my opinion, was also because of the amount of weight that Aljamain Sterling was cutting. So in this fight, I think Aljamain Sterling is going to win this fight. Jiri Prohaska versus Alexander Rakic. I'm going with Alexander Rakic. I think Jiri makes dumb mistakes because he thinks it's. I don't know. I don't think he has a high fight IQ. He just has the ability to finish a fight. But when he's fighting someone who's technically good and has some level of fight IQ, he struggles. Um, which is what I think Rakic has. And Alexander looked sensational in his last fight against Jan Blachowicz before he got injured. So And in all honesty, I genuinely saw a future champion when I was looking at Alexander Rakic when he was fighting Jan Blachowicz. So I think Alexander Rakic is going to beat Jiri Prohaska. I love Jiri, but he makes like, why would you let someone hit your leg so many times? I know people will say, "Wow, Alex Pereira's leg kicks are really fast," but don't you know that going into the fight, like for example, Israel Adesanya knew that going into the fight, and he, even if you can't avoid all of them, you can at the very least try to minimize it by at least maybe having a counter or finding a way to actually evade them to some extent. You don't have to. I'm not saying it's possible to avoid all of them. I'm saying you can avoid at least half of them if you prepare for it in your fight camp. And the fact that Jiri was making those kind of mistakes, I don't think he's going to win this fight. Bo Nickel versus Cody Brandage. I'm so mad that this fight is on the main card. Like, especially after the former champions that I've just spoken about, and even Olympic champions, even though Kayla Harrison shouldn't even be considered for the main card. I'm just saying, Bone Nickel shouldn't be on the main card, man. Like, I know they're trying to promote him, and he might be a future champion, but he shouldn't be on the main card. But what can we say? Obviously, Bone Nickel is going to win this fight. I don't know anyone who would think. I don't know anyone who would think Cody Brandage has a shot. Like, there's no way Cody Brandage wins this fight. Um, Obviously, this goes to Bo Nickel without a doubt. There's no need for even anyone to even question this. If Cody Brandage somehow manages to win, this will probably be the biggest upset in the history of the UFC, because I think Bonico is now like a minus 1,000 or 1.5 favorite or something like that. So like, there's no way Cody Brandage wins this fight. I don't know why it's on the main card. That's like, it's not even going to be competitive. Probably going to end in the first round. On to the next one: Arman Sarukian versus Charles Oliveira. These are the two people that I feel like have a chance at beating Islam. Um, it's unfortunate that Charles Oliveira has to fight someone else and someone as dangerous as Arman Sarukian in order to get his shot again at the belt. But I guess he got injured, and Justin Gaethje is next in line, but he took another fight, so we never know. So here's my thing, right? I would pick Charles Oliveira because he looked sensational in his last fight as against Benil Dariush. But then Benil Dariush got beaten by, like, in the first round. He got knocked out in the first round by Aman Zarukia, right? And that doesn't mean anything as it relates to how Charles Oliveira performed, because Charles Oliveira looked sensational in that particular fight. My issue is Charles Oliveira's defense, especially striking defense, is not good. I think Charles Oliveira, in almost every single fight that he's ever had, especially since he became a champion, he's been knocked down. And that's a problem for me because Aman Sarukian has power, you know, and Aman Sarukian has grappling abilities. I still feel like wrestling, especially sambo, is a little bit better than jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is good if you're fighting someone who's not necessarily good at wrestling, or you're fighting someone who's also doing jiu-jitsu. Maybe it's going to be easy, but wrestlers are a little bit difficult to actually beat with jiu-jitsu, right? So I'm going to I'm going to, based on number one, based on Aman Sarukian's performance against Islam. Islam didn't finish Aman Sarukian, right? In their first fight, um, Aman Sarukian fought Islam on short notice, and they went to a decision, right? That's the first thing. Number two, when I look at how Aman Sarukian performed against Gamrod, um, it tells me that it's difficult to actually knock that guy down, and the only way you have a shot at beating Amanza Rukian is if you outgrapple him the way Islam did. And I don't see Charles Oliveira doing that. So unfortunately, I think Amal Sarukian is going to be the Charles Oliveira because with these prospects, the biggest and most concerning issue is their cardio. I don't think that's going to be a problem for Amal Sarukian, especially after going 3 rounds with Islam Makhachev. There, I know that for a fact that cardio is not going to be an issue, and wrestling is not going to be an issue. Striking, I don't think is going to be an issue, and especially on the ground, I think Amal Sarukian will probably have the advantage. So I'm going to go with what do you call him? Aman Sarukian. Um, Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. Whew, this is going to be an exciting fight. Like I honestly cannot wait for this fight. I think I'm going to go with Max Holloway. I think he's the more accurate fighter. Obviously, I know that Justin Gaethje is a little bit more brutal. His strikes are damaging, but I think Max Holloway is will be a little bit more stronger, will have a little bit more power at the lightweight, and will have the ability to actually he might surprise everyone and actually finish Justin Gaethje. So I'm going to go with Max Holloway on this particular fight. The co-main event. I, I don't know why this fight is even on this card, man. But nonetheless, I think I'm going to go with Zhang Weili. Um, I think she's improving every single fight, and she looks sensational. She's very complete. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I think Zhang Weili is going to win this fight. The main event. The main event. I've underestimated Alex Pereira for a long time. um, I think I've picked Alex Pereira when he was fighting Jan Blachowicz. Yeah, that's the only time I remember picking Alex Pereira. Here's my thing, right? Jan, the problem I have with Alex Pereira versus Hill is that Hill has a lot of power. Hill has a lot of knockout power. And Hill has a bit of technique. It's not just knockout power. And on top of that, he's significantly better at grappling than Jiri Prohaska, who was able to, even though not successfully, but he was able to get um, Alex Pereira down. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was slightly able to take Alex Pereira down. So it's kind of hard to say, but I think I'll go with Jamal Hill. I know it's crazy, but I think Jamal Hill is going to win this fight. Um, yeah, I think Jamal Hill is going to beat Alex Pereira. I think he has more tools to actually win that fight. He has a lot of power on the feet, and if that doesn't work, he has the option of trying to go to the ground, and he's a little bit better at grappling than, as we've seen in the previous fight, than even Glover Teixeira himself. So I think Jamal Hill is going to be able to take this one. And that concludes my predictions for UFC. My early predictions, my official predictions will always come out a day before, um, 2 days before the actual fight card. Um, I appreciate all of you. And yeah, tell me what you think. But for now, I'm out. Deuces.